or booed me or said we suck.
All right, let's go to our guest line. If you happen to be watching us on QSportsTalk.com, you see our first guest today live and in person. So pleased to be joined by Brandon Triche. Brandon, always great to catch up with you. How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just on my way to the gym. Just happy to talk to you guys.
Well, we are happy to have you.
You want to ask him about his gym playlist on Spotify, Steve?
If you would like to, before we get into basketball, we can do that.
I don't know if I had that previous song that you guys were playing on it. It's a good mixture of hip-hop and R&B for the most part.
Nice. See, that's his workout music. That's what I try to tell you. There's certain music you listen to in your workout. Paulie listens to everything, including slow songs when he works out, which I don't understand. But anyway, we'll move on from that.
I listen to slow song too. It zones me out. It zones me out for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
If I like the song, I like the song, and that's all that matters.
Fair enough. All right, maybe I'm in the minority on this. All right, let's talk some hoops, Brandon. What do you first and foremost? What do you make of this team? What you've seen this year? I mean, we looked at the team going in, that the talent was there, very inconsistent. Obviously, what do you make of this team?
I think they're doing. I think it's a roller coaster. Obviously, it's up and down. I think as a player, you want to be consistent. As a team, you want to be consistent. As a coach, you want to be consistent. And I think for the most part, Syracuse basketball hasn't been as consistent this year, and that's kind of like what you're seeing. And then as fans, we're not being consistent either. So we're praising the guys, and we're talking crap about the guys as well. So I think in general, the word that comes from me is inconsistency.
Yeah, and I think we saw that certainly in a 48-hour stretch. The Notre Dame game was probably the best they've played since, I don't know, the Tennessee win in terms of both ends of the court. They got after it defensively. They were sharing the ball on offense. They were getting open looks. And then 48 hours later against North Carolina, it seemed like all that went away. I mean, how do you explain that, I guess, as a player and as a former player? How does that happen, where they played so well together on Saturday and then on Monday night they kind of reverted back to some bad habits?
I don't necessarily think it's bad habits. I think it's just different levels of basketball. If you compare how Syracuse played against the earlier teams, right, like the Monmouths or the teams that they beat by 20 or 30, I'm sure everyone wasn't saying, they're not passing the ball. Here's the thing. Now you get better competition. The players are bigger, longer, and maybe guys aren't as open as it seems to be. You know what I mean? So, and I noticed that from me playing. It's like, maybe that pass was easier against somebody that wasn't as athletic. Now that they're a little bit tighter on the denying the passes and stuff like that, then it makes you a little bit more stingy with the ball because you don't want to turn it over. But to your point, I think it's important to try to play the same way, because their assist this year is I think they're averaging 13 assists a game, which isn't so good. Shoot, when I played, I think my freshman year we averaged 19 assists a game, which seems like incredible in comparison to what's going on now.
What about being ready for games? In coming out slow, how much of that is on the coaches to get you ready, and how much is on the players to be ready in situations like that?
I think everything's a combination. Obviously, as coaches, you want to push the right buttons or have the right players out there who's probably going to give you that energy in the beginning. So it's figuring out what lineup you need to go to make sure the energy is high. Sometimes that might not be the best offensive lineup. That might be a better defensive lineup. That might be a slower lineup versus a faster lineup. It really, as a coach, you got to figure that out. And then as players, you got to identify what you want to do that first 5 minutes. For example, for me, I wanted to see how my shot was feeling. So if you notice, for a lot of my games, I kind of started out with a three-pointer to see if I make it or make it. If I don't make it, then I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to get to the basket a little bit more, get myself a rhythm. But I think everybody should, I think it's on everybody. One, I think it's on coaches just trying to tell the guys, like, okay, this is what I want and this is what we need to do so we're able to perform the best we can the first 5 minutes. And then as a player, you got to, be able to execute it.
Brian, I want to ask you about J.J. Starling, who, like you, is a local guy that chose to. I know you chose to play at Syracuse right from the jump, but he went to Notre Dame a year and then decided to come back, and he's been here for a little while now, and it seems like from the outside looking in that he might be struggling with his confidence a little bit. What do you make of his game, and I guess his game as a sophomore versus the game that you see out of him now?
I think it originally started with a shot, right? I think from watching him in high school, he had a smooth shot. His jump shot was his best attribute. He ended up becoming this, incredible fast athlete now who can get to the basket very quick. But I think that somewhere, I don't know if it was some type of surgery or whatever the case may be, but his shot kind of, lost him a little bit, even on free throws, right? But here's the thing. I think as a local product, you have a certain amount of pressure that you want to do well in general, right? Just as a Division I player. As you get older, people expect more of you. Now, just being from Syracuse, you got people that know you personally, want you to do really well. So I think he has pressure on so many different sides. I think originally that's probably why he wanted to get out of Syracuse. Like, all right, let me go to Notre Dame, so then I don't have that local pressure. And then once the opportunity, rose up where he can get back to Syracuse, he's like, you know what? I'm confident I can handle this. But we all go through it, right? I went through the pressure of feeling really great about myself. Then I've had pressures of not feeling so great. And guess what? We were winning. Imagine you not playing well and sometimes you're losing. Sometimes when I didn't play well, we won most of those games. It was just more of a me thing. Like, I could do more. So I think for him, it just, it's easier said than done, but having a consistent mindset is very important. Don't let your lows be too low and don't let your highs be too high. Me personally, I go off of this. Like, I dwell in my wins and I forget my losses. And I try to go about life like that.
You talk about pressure. I can't imagine anybody's feeling more pressure on this team from a player perspective than Cayenne Anthony. It hasn't gone great for him this year. He's obviously been struggling on the defensive end. He's a freshman. It's, we heard Coach Boeheim talk about all the time that it is a transition from high school to college. Your thoughts on Cayenne and the player you think he can be someday, like a year from now? What do you envision Cayenne Anthony being as a player?
I think he's a really good player. I think if he did have more minutes, he would show what he can do, but it would show more flaws as well. It's like a double-edged sword when it comes to that. So Red, as a coach, he's trying to figure out, okay, what's the proper amount of minutes to play him that he does positive things, I guess, for the duration of time that he's in the game. But to me, he's a great shooter, right? He got great feel for the game where he could get to certain spots that you don't think he could get to. For me, I think I look for him to get a little bit stronger. I look for him to work on his fast twitch, so his first step is a little bit faster. So he's not able. So you don't have to take as many tough shots. One, he's a really smart player, right? So he's used to probably being, let's say, a little less athletic than the kids he grew up playing against. He is with VJ Edgecombe, right? An elite athlete. So you go from him, who can jump over the building, to Cayenne, who is more of a person that plays on the ground and has to. So I think it's a combination of him working on his athleticism, so the game becomes a little bit easier. And then that will make him a better defender as well. You know what I mean? But I think he's doing pretty well. You wouldn't want him to be shooting 50% free throws. Like, he's a way better shooter than that. You know what I mean? So again, it is pressure from his dad. Him obviously being a former great at Syracuse. But the good thing is, it's a learning curve. I'd rather learn it my freshman year than sophomore and junior year. Let's say in comparison to JJ, you know what I mean? I'd rather go through all my pains in my freshman year, so then now I can learn and get better.
If you take your former player hat off and you were looking at Syracuse basketball at where it was and where it is now, how would you, is there a fix to this situation?
I think it's so many different changes, right? There's certain things that we didn't have to deal with that the players are dealing with now. One, in my time, right? So I only lost 25 games in my career, right? Now, I think once I kind of left, we ended up having one really great season. I think from 2015, it kind of went a little bit down. We went through violations and stuff like that. But I think there's so many different changes that you can't really pinpoint one thing. But we aren't recruiting the same athletes that we once did. So I think the players got a little less better. And let's be honest, guys aren't staying. So if we can make a collection of, let's say, teams from 2019 to 2023, if we can make a collection of 4-year players, because when I was playing, all our guys stayed 3 and 4 years. Only the top 5 picks left early, or top 10 picks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There wasn't, they could have transferred, but they didn't transfer. You know what I mean? So, although we didn't recruit the highest or the best talent, we had maybe 1 or 2 McDonald's each year. But for the most part, we had top 100, top 150. But by the time they were sophomores and juniors, let's say for me per se, by the time I'm a sophomore or junior, you can't tell me I'm not a 5-star recruit now. You know what I mean? Because now I got the experience and things like that. So I think it's a combination of every year Syracuse is coaching a new team. So
now, Brandon. Yeah, Brandon, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I'm sure you're rooting for Red. You want them to succeed. You want them to win a lot of games and figure this thing out. If they do have to move on from Red, do you have a strong feeling on what's next? Mike Hopkins' name has been thrown out there. Certainly Jerry McNamara's name has been thrown out there. There's also, fans who want to see Syracuse go outside the Orange family for the next hire. Have you given some thought to what you would want to see next if Red is not retained?
I mean, those names have been coming across just like you guys been hearing. You got like you said, Mike Hopkins. You have even a Jason Hart, right? Jason Hart, assistant coach, played at Syracuse 96 to 2000, I believe. Assistant coach at USC, so many different places, played 10 years in the NBA, or I think 10 or 12 years in the NBA. He was coaching the G League Ignite team. Now he's assistant coach at Kentucky. But you got so many different guys, GMAC as well, right? So probably those are the top 3 Syracuse, or who has a connection to Syracuse. But to me, I'm not really necessarily thinking about the coaches and stuff like that. I think for Red, I think Red is doing all right. You want him to do great, but I think he's only doing all right. And I think for a lot of Syracuse fans, that's not good enough. You know what I mean? So. Yeah.
How much are you and your former teammates talking about the team right now? And and if you do talk to some of your former teammates, what's being said? From the outside looking in about the program right now.
Me personally, I'm always kind of siding on the side of on the positive side. You know what I mean? Of him I more so think of Coach as more of a human being, what he's going through and things like that. I know it's a tough time. So I'm siding if I was in that position, I would want some grace. So I'm kind of on that side of things, give him some grace. I mean, this is difficult for anybody to do. But I think of it he's a new coach with not as much experience. And you're going into a situation where you probably need a lot of experience to be able to coach these guys.
Brandon, you're a class act. We always love having you on. Thanks so much for the time. I hope you have a good workout, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Brandon Triche joining us here on the show. And with that, we'll take a time out.
Imagine having grace.
Yeah. It's not allowed.
No, it is definitely not by the vocal people on the interwebs.
It was well said by Brandon. All right, we'll hit a timeout. 315-437-7644. Phone lines open the rest of the way. We'll check in on the market. We'll get a review of your pot pie from last night. Can't wait for that. And we're back after this. Adios.